Hey there, skaters and other YouTube fans out there. Finally, there is a study specifically on speed skaters when it comes to lung strength and lung capacity and how much breath training actually improves your performance. Now, I have used an AeroFit device to train my lungs for the last 6 years, leading up to 2 Olympic Games, so I'm well aware of how much of an impact it has on your lungs actually being stronger, and I'm also very certain that stronger lungs have made me a better skater, but finally there's some actual proof other than what we just feel like. So I invited Mike Bennett from AeroFit to join me in this little YouTube video where we're gonna dive into the results of this new study that's out there where they followed 16 professional skaters over quite some time, and they've been doing daily lung training, very similar to what I've been doing with the AeroFit device for 6 years. Personally, it's taken my lung capacity from 7 to 11.7 liters, wild improvements, but how much that has actually done to my skating, well, I can't really tell. I know I've gotten better at skating, but how much of that is actually from the lungs? So I think this is super cool that they followed these 16 skaters, they tested them cardiovascularly, wind gait, strength, and most excitingly, if you ask me, how fast they are on skates. So in this video, we're just gonna look at that, analyze a little, and hopefully Mike can give us some answers to like what exactly made them faster at skating, and we'll see how much faster they actually got.
Yeah, for sure, it's super cool. I've known you for years now, and it's kind of like, you come to me with all these random questions like, why am I better? And I'm like, well, if we look at runners or we look at cyclists, we can kind of start to pick, but super excited that there's something on skating.
Yes.
And not only like kind of amateur level, but elite. These are, as you mentioned, not too far off world record times.
We're gonna dive into their lap times, whatnot, and if you know about skating, you'll see they're not bad skaters.
Yeah, exactly. A lot faster than me.
Yeah. I mean, we can't tell, but probably. Just like to give you an idea, so my personal experience here is that things I've noticed after using the AeroFit, obviously, with the device, super nice feature, by the way, appreciate that. You can test your own lungs, and it even bases the intensity of these training program sessions off your lung strength. So that's how I can tell that I've gotten better at breathing. But who cares if it doesn't make you a better athlete or feel better. So the things where I really noticed a difference is my rate of perceived effort. Obviously went down a lot, especially in things where like, you feel your breathing, swimming, cycling. In that skating position, makes a massive difference how hard the effort feels. My heart rate, when I skate, when I train, but also overnight, has gotten down quite a lot. And then the final thing is like position work is easier. Like I can adapt for a more aerodynamic position, which often comes at the cost of breathing, but simply, you explained this in previous videos here on the channel that you can breathe in all directions basically, so that makes it easier to be in that position. So those are the things that, I mean, I felt. I don't know, you obviously spoken to more athletes than me, so like what your experience is, how people perceive it.
Yeah, for sure, and a lot of athletes kind of explain it in various ways. One is always comes back to is the resting heart rate. So heart rate overnight is much lower. Same with your resting respiratory rate. So how much you're breathing overnight. So you're actually using your lungs slightly less, which could be the resting heart rate or heart rate variability and stuff like that. But as you mentioned, those weird positions, and I think this actually comes down to just kind of a byproduct of training your lungs, is the biomechanics. Understanding how to utilize, because it is resistance training, you need to use the full muscle to overcome the resistance. So if you're kind of shallow breathing, you're not going to get the benefits. So you actually need to open that diaphragm and really breathe.
It's like doing squats with no full range of motion. Kind of target better.
Exactly. So we see that a lot, but then we also just see athletic performance does increase, whether that is times in the pool or recovery between sprinting bouts. So football players, they actually see a big difference if they do a sprint, relax 30 seconds, then repeated effort. But the times between their first and 10th efforts are a lot more similar.
All right. Interesting you say the repeated effort, because so the two, like now if we look specifically at the study here, they did test repeated efforts and single efforts. The way they did the study, so it's in Poland, they followed the national team for 6 weeks of training, and they performed a wind gait test, cardiovascular test, a flying lap, which this is short track speed skating, so that's kind of like around 8 to 9 seconds, very short effort, and then relays where you skate for about 10 seconds and rest for 20, 30 seconds, and then you repeat that 10 times over and over. And they had 16 skaters half males, half females. They had no prior lung training to this, so other than the natural use of lungs. And what they did here was 28 to 34 daily resistant breath. So with the intake here, you have 6 different levels of inhale, exhale. So we'd assume they've been inhaling with some sort of resistance here. Also my favorite session, by the way. The full inhale. I believe that's also one of those where there's a lot of scientific evidence that it really has an impact. So they did that for 6 weeks. They found no significant difference in the wind gate test. They found a 5 beat per minute maximum heart rate decrease. On the bike for the cardio test. And then the lactate levels in average went from 14.3 millimole to 11.9. That's insane.
Yeah, that's the difference between your legs hating you and your legs disliking you.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's still gonna hurt, but
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, when we talk about the repeated efforts, if you build that much less lactic acid, it makes it a lot easier to do another effort. Yeah. And those were at the same wattage on the bike, so that's
phenomenal.
Breaths per minute at maximum effort went from 61 to 55 on average, and the power at their ventilatory threshold went from 3.9 watts per kilo to 4.5 watts per kilo.
Yeah, it's nearly a 25% increase. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Now I know you've been in this field for many years. Did you expect that it would have that big impact?
On an average athlete, yes.
Yeah.
But as we've spoken about previously, like, these are elite athletes, and it's kind of like, do they get the physiological adaptation through their sport?
Yeah.
They should do, in theory, but by enhancing a metric like your lungs, you just see some phenomenal results. Like, the breaths per minute decreasing by 6 breaths.
That's 10%.
Yeah, exactly. They're breathing less but clearing more lactic acid. Like, that's phenomenal.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I think that really highlighted in looking at some of their more in-depth analysis. They were looking at the ventilatory, so how much they were breathing at maximum, and that also decreased slightly. So they were really increased significantly. So it went from about 153 litres per minute to 164.
That's another 6-7% right there. Yeah.
What that's showing is breathing less, but breathing more, if that makes sense. Yeah. The amount of times breathing decreased significantly, but they were able to pull in more air, push out more air, which is phenomenal.
That's pretty wild,
For
6 weeks.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also, in a way, it's wild to see the numbers, but also personally, I've been there myself. Obviously, the better you get, the smaller those gains are going to be. But I had the same feeling in the beginning. It takes much less than you would expect to improve a lot. Real exciting. Probably what you guys are the most excited about, the times on the ice. So the first one, the differences in flying laps went from an average, if we look at the men's here, an average of a flying lap of 8.83 seconds per lap down to 8.62. That I think all skaters on an elite level here would kill to have a flying lap improvement by 0.2.
In 6 weeks.
Yes, we're in 1 year.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's cool because that was on so this study had a inspiratory pressure threshold, which is similar to aerofit, so breathing against resistance, as well as a hypercapnic, which is the buildup of carbon dioxide. That also saw a very significant increase. And the great thing about aerofit is we do both. So we have those breath holds as well as the breathing. So the hypercapnic actually saw 9.03 down to an 8.7. So a 0.3 second. So if aerofit can kind of balance those out and give you slightly more, even to 0.4.
Pretty sure there's very few ways you can get that if you're at that level.
Exactly.
I also think that one's interesting because I based it a lot on how I felt. My kind of improvements were the one thing I felt like I probably didn't improve that would be an 8-second effort. Single time. But I mean, a lot of it probably comes down to if you do sleep better, if you do recover better, if you can train better, then maybe they just felt better over these 6 weeks also.
Correct. So it could be the causation of having a better kind of relaxed state, as you mentioned, or it could be the lungs, or a combination of both. And I think it'd be very hard to isolate to see that, but at the end of the day, there was
we don't care at that point.
Exactly, it's kind of...
there could be anything.
We don't need to read between the lines, we just need to know. You're a better skater.
Yeah. For the relay, repeated efforts, about 10 seconds, every 30 seconds for 10 times. For those, we saw some significant improvements again, from 9.27 to 9.21. And with the other device from 9.49 to 9.29. Like those to me make a lot of sense, because that is really where you feel out of breath and you gotta like collect your thoughts, collect your body, and go for it again and again.
Correct, and that's actually super interesting with the hypercapnic, the carbon dioxide machine having slightly more improvement.
Yeah.
I think that comes down to you can tolerate more carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
So by able to tolerate that carbon dioxide, you're able to push slightly harder when you have that higher lactic threshold, and that's super cool because with Aerofit, you probably know we have breath holds with full lungs, empty lungs, getting you kind of more in tune with that higher level. Yeah. So it's fantastic.
For sure. This is crazy. I think it's super cool. It definitely motivates me in my breath training moving forward. I do kind of want to mention here. Yeah. We love the Aerofit. Yes. There's a reason, because that's a question I get pretty often on the channel here. Obviously, you guys know how big a fan I am of Aerofit breath training. Why would I spend my money buying this if I can just breathe into a plastic bag or whatever device? I think personally, so this is a 6-week study where I feel like you can almost do any type of breathing, you're gonna improve at some point in the beginning. So the one thing I think for me is why I would choose the Aerofit is because it adapts to your breathing. Like I used this for 6 years, I'm still literally out of breath using this guy. Because there are different levels of resistance. There is the training program that basically adapts for where you're at. Obviously you can test yourself. Love that for motivation. I do use it less leading into competitions, so almost like a taper thing. But knowing that this will always like challenge you to the ideal kind of level, I think personally is where I find the biggest benefit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting you mentioned like a plastic bag or a tube or something. That'd be like going to the forest and picking up a rock. You're going to get some strength adaptation, but you don't know how much you're improving. You don't know if you're overtraining, undertraining. Aerofit takes that guesswork out of your breath work. And really helps you. Really helps you. Really helps you improve your respiratory health, and hopefully, as per the study, smash your personal best. It could take you from 5th to 3rd at the Olympics.
Facts. That's what I hope to do. I mean, obviously it's been helping me a ton, otherwise I wouldn't be here, wouldn't make this video. Just super happy to share that with all of you guys. Also, there is a link in the description, because these guys were so kind to give a discount to all of the viewers out there, so you can get started with the Aerofit. So click on that and get one. There are 3 different models.
Yes, correct.
So
simple active model, not connected. The essential, the kind of entry-level product, very limited but still connected. And then the Pro, the flagship model, which we strongly recommend as it gives you that whole breath work, coaching and training.
Honestly, it works. You'll see for yourself. It makes a big difference, and the fact that you can constantly test yourself and see where it actually takes you is super sweet.
And based on this study, I'm genuinely surprised you openly talk about this. I mean, if it was me,
I got a 6-year head start.
6 years.
You can catch me.
Exactly.
Maybe wait until after the 26 games.
Exactly.
Appreciate that.
Perfect.
Thanks for coming on the YouTube channel, Mike.
No worries.
It's always fun. Good luck with your training and your lungs out there.
Thank you.